It's over. It's finally over. Winter testing is done and dusted. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. It's been a mega 2 weeks for Formula One and over here. So I just want to say a big thank you to all of you who've joined the Grosjean Army, which is brilliant to see you all. And if you're listening to this, blimey, it's almost over. It's almost over. We've got today to talk about the final day, our final little roundup of the quickest times we've seen, the most laps we've seen, and then over the weekend, I'll start putting out stuff, little previews for the season, but also we'll do a big overhaul, a review of testing and which teams are looking the best going into the 2019 season. Today the focus is going to be on the final day, and actually another drama-packed day. It was a great way to end off testing. We didn't quite see that 1:15 lap time, the quickest we've seen across the 2 weeks, was done today by Sebastian Vettel with Lewis Hamilton just behind. But I predicted a 1:15.9 right back at the beginning of testing with Sean over on the F1 Word. We didn't quite get there, but we were so close. So a little smile on our faces. But let's go through the times, then we'll go through the laps, and then we'll do an overview of the day. Sebastian Vettel, Ferrari, end testing with the quickest time of all with a 1:16.221, but just 3 thousandths behind him, Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes. And then 2 tenths back from Hamilton was his teammate Valterri Bottas with a 1:16.5. Now, again, for one final time in testing, we can't read too much into testing. We can't look at these lap times and say Ferrari are the clear quickest, even though most people, me included, think Ferrari going into Melbourne are going to be the team to beat. Mercedes really put out a statement today saying, you know what, when it comes down to a qualifying trim, we can be right up there. Both drivers, Hamilton and Vettel, on the C5 tyre. And although the Ferrari just edged it, that is such a tiny margin that Vettel was able to get over Hamilton. And so going into Melbourne, I think actually, whereas last week Mercedes were arguably half a second off, reports were saying this will be positive for them. And although it still looks like Ferrari are going to be the top dogs, Mercedes for sure are going to be in that fight. And I think we're all aware that Mercedes weren't going to be half a second off. But I think for them, any kind of panic that might have potentially been there is out the window. But I still believe Mercedes will 100% will be winning races this year. So Mercedes fans, don't worry. All good. And the quickest laps for both Hamilton and Bottas, they'll be chuffed with today. A good amount of laps as well that we'll talk about in a minute. Behind those three, Nico Hülkenberg in the Renault, a 1:16.8. A little bit of a quiet couple of weeks for Renault, actually. They've just got on with the job, really. Again, we'll go into a little bit more detail on how most teams performed when I do my sort of testing review in the weekend. But they've been under the radar, I would say, Renault, especially this week. And you can see the lap time is a solid lap time, just quicker than the Toro Rosso, 3 tenths back from Valtteri Bottas. Again, we can't read into it too much, but I think if they were 3 tenths off from the Mercedes in qualifying, they would be absolutely chuffed with that. So I think Renault, we're still looking at a team that aren't really going to be fighting for a win at any point this year. Maybe will struggle to get a podium, but they don't seem to have gone backwards, and a 1:16.8 from Hülkenberg is not a bad lap time at all. Neither is it a bad lap time for Danny Kvyat, a 1:16.8 as well as Nico Hülkenberg. He was on the C5 tyres. They've done very well once again this year in testing Toro Rosso, a team that many people just disregard every single year. But I'm interested to see what you guys think about a quote that came out about some of the Toro Rosso team members saying that on occasion this year, they might be able to beat Red Bull. I'm not buying into that, if I'm being fully honest. Don't think I agree with that whatsoever, but they've still performed very well. Slightly quicker time than the McLaren of Carlos Sainz, also on the C5 tyres, a 1:16.9, just getting in to those 1:16s. Lando Norris just missed out yesterday, and someone else who just missed out was Romain Grosjean in the Haas, a 1:17.076. Again, a team that yesterday I said I want to see a little bit more from them today, and they definitely delivered. Laps and lap time was impressive from the Haas car. But again, they're one of these teams that are a bit unknown going into Melbourne. So I'm optimistic. I think the team are optimistic. So we're just going to have to wait and see. Daniel Ricciardo ends testing behind Grosjean with a 1:17.1. Behind Ricciardo is Kimi Raikkonen in the Alfa Romeo. Robin Raikkonen, his son, was out and about today, getting used to the Formula 1 scene. Will he be in Formula 1 in the future? We'll have to wait and see. Don't know if Dad Kimi would be too interested in that, but Kimi's lap time, a 1:17.2, a tenth off the Renault, about a second off the Ferrari. Is that going to be where they are come Melbourne? Definitely look really solid, did Alfa Romeo over testing, and I think today's lap time isn't the quickest they could have gone. I do believe that. So, again, trying to go under the radar a little bit Alfa Romeo, but they've really impressed over these few weeks. Magnussen, a 1:17.5, could have gone quicker, but as we'll discuss a little bit later on, did see a red flag near the end of the session. Verstappen, a 1:17.7. If they are a second and a half off Ferrari in qualifying, blimey, my prediction might actually come true, but I don't think that's the case. Red Bull, as you can see on laps, we're almost getting to talk about laps. Only 29 completed today. Not a great end to testing. Limited running yesterday because of Gasly's crash. Today, even more limited running due to a gearbox issue for Max Verstappen. We'll go into a little bit more detail about that in a moment. Sergio Perez, a 1:17.7. Nothing too inspiring there. And Robert Kubica, a 1:18.9. for Williams. I will just mention Verstappen's time is on the C3 tyres as well compared to the C5, so that lap is probably not crazily representative, but it's still we've got to mention it. Come on, guys, it's almost over now. Lap times done. Laps completed, the bit I like to look at. Vettel, 110 completed for Ferrari, 61 for Hamilton, 71 for Bottas. Takes Mercedes total to 132 on the final day of testing, means that they have had absolutely an incredible 2 weeks and have completed the most laps of any single team. So they will be happy with that, I think. I think that's a job well done for Mercedes. 51 for Nico Hülkenberg, and you can see a little bit lower down his teammate, 52 laps. So 103 for Renault, jumping that 100 mark. So happy days from my end. 131 for Toro Rosso and Danny Kvyat, 134 for Carlos Sainz, some solid numbers for those two, 167 for Haas, that's exactly what they needed. That's, well, almost 2 days worth of running, 167 laps, so they'll be chuffed with that, I believe. Not 2 days worth of solid running, but we've seen teams like Racing Point get about 70 laps. So 167, a really good way to end testing for Haas. Grosjean 73 laps, Magnussen 94 laps. And considering Magnussen hopped in the afternoon, also saw the final red flag of testing very late on in the afternoon. They'll be chuffed with that. And being a Haas supporter, I'm chuffed with that as well. Just 29 for Verstappen. They're going to be annoyed with that. I'll just quickly say 104 for Racing Point. Again, just about jumping over that 100 mark. And just 90 for Williams. And strangely enough, Williams end testing just 60 laps behind Racing Point. So that is a crazy thing to think about. And people that have said, oh, don't worry about Racing Point. It doesn't matter if you hit 100 laps. Williams missed almost 3 days and almost had as many laps as Racing Point. So I just want to throw that out there. Again, we'll jump into all that nitty-gritty stuff when we really analyse testing as best we can at the weekend. But still, good jobs from Racing Point and Williams. They'll be a little disappointed with 90 laps considering most days 140. But I still think, considering where we were last week, not a bad way to end testing for Williams. Red Bull then, we've got to quickly talk about them because that was the big talking point. We did see red flags from Haas. Kimi Raikkonen stopped as well early on. However, Max Verstappen, 29 laps today. Like I said earlier, limited running for Gasly yesterday. Considering that at the beginning of week 2, we were saying how good they looked, how good that car looked, not only the car itself, but also the reliability of the car looks so strong with that Honda engine. So we were thinking that Honda partnership's doing so well, but today we saw the first public display of issues, a gearbox issue for Verstappen. Don't worry too much, Red Bull fans. I said it earlier in the week, I'll say it again, you'd rather issues happen now, but still, that's almost a whole, well, 2 complete days that Red Bull have missed out on, and how will this affect a potential title push? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below, but that's it for testing. The final day review is done. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.